Hey, what up? It's Atominator back with another one. So I was thinking about doing another predictions video for the 2018 Arnold Classic in Australia that's coming up this weekend. But when I looked at the competitor list again and thought about it for a second, I realized there really isn't much need, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, it looks like all the top guys from the Arnold in Ohio are also doing this show, so if that's the case, I expect the top six to pan out pretty much the same. And yes, that means I don't expect Kevin Levrone to land in the top six here. Top 10 maybe, that's a best case scenario for him, I'd say, but top 6 isn't going to happen, and I would bet money on that. So sorry to kind of burst your bubble if you guys were expecting bigger things from Levrone, but I'm just trying to be realistic with you here. But anyway, considering William Bonac won just 2 weeks ago against all these guys, you gotta view him as the odds-on favorite. No disrespect to the other big names like Dexter or Cedric or Rolly, but it is what it is. There just hasn't been a whole lot of time to make meaningful improvements. So I expect more or less a repeat of what we just saw. So that's really who I want to talk about here today, because William Bonac is the man of the hour. He looked fantastic, and he's the latest Arnold Classic champion, adding his name to a long list of Hall of Famers who have also claimed bodybuilding's second most prestigious title. Now, William Bonac is a very impressive bodybuilder, no doubt. Along with Big Ramy, he is the fastest rising star in the IFBB ranks today when it comes to the men's open division. And his victory at the 2018 Arnold Classic has now cemented his status as one of Phil Heath's biggest challengers. But that being said, does he really have what it takes to defeat Phil Heath at the Mr Olympia? The short answer, at least in my humble opinion, is no. Not yet anyway. Not unless Phil comes in off or gets injured. So let me break it down to show you why I say that. For starters, let's consider their strengths and how these guys match up to one another. So William's greatest strengths, as I'm sure many of you are well aware, are his round, full muscle bellies, the crisp separation that he brings to the stage, and his total body development. I mean, he just has very few weaknesses. He's got very thin skin and excellent conditioning as well, which allows his muscles to really pop and give his physique that polished, eye-catching quality. Well, guess what? Those are also Phil's strengths as well. The major difference between them is that Phil is simply bigger. He's taller and has a larger skeletal structure to hang his muscles on. Now, this is an oversimplification to be sure, but you could say that Phil Heath is basically a bigger version of William Bonac, and all things being equal, bigger is always better when it comes to the Olympia stage. Now, you might argue that bigger is not better when it comes to maintaining aesthetics or keeping the midsection in check, and I would fully agree with you on that. But let's be real here, guys. Has a bloated belly ever prevented a reigning Mr. Olympia from retaining the title? Did it stop Dorian in '94 against a far more streamlined Sean Ray? Did it stop Ronnie in 2001 or in 2004 versus the flatter stomach Jay Cutler? Did it cost Phil last year against Big Ramy or in 2014 versus Kai Green? Like it or not, I think we all know the answer to these questions by now. So let me rephrase for clarification once again. By IFBB judging standards, okay? Bigger is always better so long as the conditioning is present. Therefore, Phil's size advantage is going to be a very difficult obstacle to overcome for the smaller William Bonac. Not only that, but Phil's back is still better as well, I would argue. Now, aesthetic is not a word used to commonly describe Phil Heath these days, but dare I say it, he is more aesthetic than Bonac in the rear lat spread at least. Surprisingly, Bonac is actually hanging with him here, if not outright beating him when it comes to the mass and the thickness, even the width. But the problem with Bonac is that he has a short torso, and combined with his extremely low lats, this has the effect of making his waist appear thick and stocky and his taper less impactful. If this looks familiar to you, it's probably because this is a structural flaw he shares with Kai Green. So those two look very similar in this pose. But when you look upstairs, Phil's back has more detail. The grooves and crevices are more prominent. His shoulders and upper traps seem to pop out at you more, lending that 3D effect that he's become so well known for. I will admit, though, this is far closer than I thought it would be, and you could still make a legitimate case for Bonac winning this pose. But personally, my eyes are drawn more to Phil for that detail and polish factor. The back double biceps is also fairly close. Note that Bonac is out-angling him even, but Phil still manages to pull ahead here. His triceps, forearms, traps, the shoulders, and even lats are all bigger. William might have the edge in biceps and the lower body thickness, but I don't think it's enough. I remember thinking during last year's Olympia that Dexter was actually the guy pushing Phil the most in the back poses. So if shows are won from the back, William certainly has his work cut out for him. So no guys, despite William's world-class physique and incredible success as of late, I don't consider him to be a true contender to topple Phil Heath just yet. I still think Big Ramy poses the greatest threat, and the guy Phil is looking over his shoulder at more than anybody right now, because Ramy has structural advantages that Phil can only dream of. It's no secret that his larger frame allows him to pack on way more mass, and his width through the shoulders enables him to completely overpower Phil in poses like the front lat spread. Plus, I believe Big Ramy still hasn't quite hit his peak. He seems to be making refinements, particularly to his back and his legs, which continue to improve and become more detailed year after year. And he has yet to really nail his conditioning 100%. The day that he does that could mark the day of reckoning for Phil and the end of his illustrious reign, provided politics don't interfere, of course. But that's still a big if when we're talking about Big Ramy as to whether that will ever happen. So Bonac, on the other hand, I feel has pretty much maximized his potential already. I mean, his smaller frame is essentially maxed out, right? I just don't see where he could physically add any more muscle without ruining his lines. And his conditioning is already about as good as you can get too, so I don't see the same room for improvement when it comes to Bonac as I do for Big Ramy. But yeah, guys, until age starts catching up to Phil or he comes in really off for some reason, I just don't see Bonac overtaking him at this point, so that's the bottom line. But hey man, this is just my opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below, and thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm the Tominator, signing off, and I'll be back.